if I get a chance to talk about like weird LSD shit, I'm gonna. So let's go. Obvi, it was the 60s. And Obvi. And the summer of love was in full swing with full bush.
Oh, yeah.
God bless.
Full bush both on the face and the crotch. It was a very hairy time for America.
There was no meridian grooming back then.
Sorry,
None.
my phone keeps auto-listening to me and typing what I'm saying, and I'm trying to get it to stop.
Full bush.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was in like a DM to a friend who just had a new baby, and I was like, oh my God,
Full bush.
stop typing what I'm saying. Full bush.
You
Full
are a
bush.
fully illustrated medical journal from 1974.
Congrats on your full bush. So in the early 60s, it wasn't just the FBI who were experimenting with hallucinogenic drugs. A Harvard research team led by Timothy Leary and Richard Alpert were blazing a trail toward a societal utopia guided by their inspiration, novelist Aldous Huxley.
Actually, a great
So
novelist.
60s.
Mm-hmm. I'm not.
Kind of a one-hit wonder, but
Kinda.
I mean, one hit wonder in the sense that.
But that hit.
The two hits that he's most famous for, but he definitely wrote a lot of shit. Like, next sentence here. If that name sounds familiar, it's because it is. He wrote Brave New World, as well as about 50 other books, novels, essays, and poems. He was a pacifist with a keen interest in philosophical mysticism, and while taking his own cocktail of mescaline, wrote of utopian societies thriving under the shared values of sexual experimentation, full bodily freedom, and transcendental religious quote-unquote experiences. So fucking hippie shit. So these Harvard nerds fell in love with this novel Island, which was the utopian follow-up to the dystopian Brave New World. And this work was their roadmap to a higher level of living. So more fucking hippie shit.
He wrote it while he was hallucinating.
Literally.
That's the way to write, though.
It honestly is.
not the
Writing
way
is
to model
such a chore.
It's such a chore.
Oh my God,
Such a fucking chore. So mix fucking hippie shit with fucking Harvard, like, psych and science nerds, and you have a department with a budget playing around with, like, mushrooms and LSD and trying to open each other's fucking third brown eye. And nothing could possibly go wrong.
What a time to be alive.
We were born in the wrong era.
You have
We
all
really
the
were.
confidence of a college freshman at Harvard. All
of
the
a
budget.
mediocre white man who read fucking Island one time.
It is funny, though, how many times in my research for this, it was referenced like, yeah, these were good ideas when you were a college freshman.
Yup. This is the most college freshman shit
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
And when you are a college freshman, you're kind of doing communal living.
Totally.
Yeah.
Again,
Totally.
WeWork documentary.
Mm-hmm.
There are no novel ideas ever
Yeah.
at all anymore.
Yeah. So when experimenting within the confines of the institution of Harvard proved too limiting for their research, Leary and Alpert launched the Zihuatanejo Project. I'm so sorry.
Zihuatanejo.
Zihuatanejo, which was,
What's
according to
the problem?
What's your problem? Which was, according to the BBC, a psychedelic training center under the umbrella of their International Federation for Internal Freedom.
Isn't Zihuatanejo where Andy Dufresne and what's his name met at the end of Shawshank Redemption in Mexico?
It is in Mexico. Maybe that's where it is.
I've never heard of it before, but maybe.
The community was located on the coast of Southwest Mexico, and it was here that they started like writing this manual called The Psychedelic Experience, a manual based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
I have a copy of that.
So do
Of course you
do. Well, Corey does, of course.
Their book was dedicated to Huxley and cites his 1954 essay, The Doors of Perception, which explored the hallucinogenic effects of mescaline, a psychedelic substance found in plants indigenous to Mexico. So they were like,
Have you ever
in
done
the place
mescaline?
where it's grown. I have not.
Have you?
I'm still
I
young.
haven't done any.
I'm young,
Compared
baby.
to
We're
you
going to
two?
Vegas in like 2 weeks. I'm gonna get
1
us
week
some
from
mescaline.
today, honey.
Oh, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I do not have a lot of time
I
to find
will
us
not be
mescaline.
doing
I gotta start
mescaline, but-
researching.
I
No.
thought you two might have, you degenerates.
You won't be doing mescaline.
I haven't done that
that
many
you know
drugs.
of. I'm gonna dose Kenyon with mescaline. It's gonna be amazing.
Dose Canyon.
Dose Kenyon.
Oh,
Dose
wait.
Kenyon.
Consent
Anyway.
is key. We're not condoning any of this.
We're joking.
But we're doing
Of course,
Dose
I
Canyon
would
in
never wink, dose Kenyon with mescaline. As the Tibetan Book of the Dead had prepared monks for mortality and reincarnation, the psychedelic experience would teach them how to handle the experience of ego death and rebirth. I hate it too, y'all. Hippie shit.
Vegas.
To
Ego
achieve-
death is. I think that's a real thing. That's a psychological thing.
For sure it is, but not what they are taking it to a stupid place.
Yeah.
Yes.
To achieve
There's also
this,
not like a fast track.
no.
No, you can't
They're
just do
white
a
boys.
bunch
They're
of
white
acid.
boys from Harvard who want to do a bunch of LSD and like get paid for it.
Yeah.
Like this is not. No. To achieve this full ego death and rebirth, the idea was to completely remove themselves from society and forge a new path forward through communal living. This was pretty fucking juicy for folks who were sick of the capitalist grind and wanting to like farm all day and fuck all night.
Sounds exhausting.
Hoe all
With
day and
my
hoe all
bad-
night.
Well, hoe all night. It's literally things that like only a college freshman has the fucking like stamina to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this operation had the attention of Huxley himself, legitimizing it all in the eyes of his hippie fans. Quote, "To us, the island represented freedom," says Edward Padilla, an early member of the group. Before settling temporarily in southwest Mexico, many of the Brotherhood favored settling in Hawaii, while a friend of Padilla flew to the remote Pacific island of Micronesia to scout out territory. So they're also fucking colonizing. The British researcher Michael Hollingshead, who first introduced Leary to LSD at the recommendation of Huxley, even spoke to the King of Tonga about providing the Brotherhood with a home. So they're like trying to find their perfect island to
And I hope the
recreate
King
island.
of Tonga was like, go fuck yourselves.
Literally, he was like, nah, bye. Their location, however, would rely on full self-sustainability, so a remote island was not even really going to be the move because they didn't want to rely on like import and export to survive. They wanted to
Off
completely
to
live off the land.
Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, you're not like that far off.
No.
Indiana.
I mean, it's California, but it's like, I find this quite humorous personally. This project was getting out of fucking control, and Harvard was like, this is not what we thought this
We thought
was
you guys
gonna
were going to be doing like scientific research, not jetting off to Micronesia.
Harvard
Uh-huh.
is still funding all of this at this point.
At this point, yes, but Brotherhood founding father Timothy Leary, who was like a doctor in psychology and he was a professor at Harvard, was fired by Harvard over the concerns about the experiments they were conducting as part of their studies. And I covered a lot of similar stuff in our CIA crimes episode, but they were basically doing the same shit, like experimenting on prisoners and underinformed, quote unquote, volunteers with LSD and other psychedelic drugs. And Leary had gotten so deep into his research, which included him and his colleagues just getting blasted on LSD, that he was failing to show up to like teach his classes and was finally just dumped from Harvard in 1963. They were like, fuck this, you're done, this project is over.
Wasn't there a movie about this, like with George Clooney?
Probably.
The men who stare at goats.
Yes.
Probably.
Is that this or different?
I don't know if it's this, but it's like all part of the same batch of like LSD time in the 60s.
It's a little bit different because remember I have told you my psychic, Charles Tiemann, psychic-light.com, used as a child was part of that project because they used psychic abilities. That was the whole point.
Well, there you
It's
go.
a little bit different, but yeah.
I'm
Same
sure
thing.
they were. I'm sure it was a fictional movie, was it not? It was based on a book, but whatever.
I don't know. So now they're back from trying out growing and taking hallucinogenics in Mexico, and they're no longer under the umbrella of Harvard, so they can devote all of their time to building the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, which is their commune. So they officially start the Brotherhood of Eternal Love in the Modeska Canyon in Orange County, completely cut off from society, mere miles off the 15. Where
People are fucking everywhere, man. It's hard to get cut off.
It's hard to get away.
Mere miles off the 15.
It's take like the 404 to
It's literally between like the 15 and like the 245 or whatever the fuck it is.
Why are
like
highways in California
everywhere?
It's very annoying.
It's really obnoxious.
Yeah, it is, but that's what they call it. So they started their process of learning to grow their own food, make their own textiles and clothing, and even provide each other medical care and fucking like deliver babies on this commune. But living off the grid or adjacent to the grid and ignoring codes and regulations.
15 miles off the grid.
Barely. Not even 15 miles. That would be like way more. And ignoring codes and regulations can be a bit sketchy, as they learned pretty soon after their homemade chapel burned to the ground and took basically their entire commune with it and all of the work they had done.
Because of like bad wiring or whatever?
Pretty much.
Probably.
Like they just didn't build it right.
Turns out electrical engineering is kind of a specialty.
Uh-huh.
So is delivering babies.
Oh,
but
that's
the thing that freaks
existed
me out.
since before time.
Oh, sure.
That's an instinctive thing.
Yeah, if everything goes right.
Sure. But people were squatting in caves before they were wiring electric in a hand-built chapel.
Exactly.
So the chapel and religion in general was central to their operation. Though they rejected the traditional tenets of Christianity, they did believe in and worship a higher God, considered themselves disciples of said God, and believed LSD to be a, quote, sacrament, a window into God itself, a key to unlock the doors of perception.
It's just another
so obnoxious
chemical, people.
Yeah, drugs are fucking awesome. No one is like arguing that.
It's
but
just,
like it's not a sacrament.
There's no just because it's natural, which I don't even know if LSD is.
No. I mean psilocybin is, but LSD is
not even like it's just another fucking chemical.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you like hallucinate, but that doesn't mean that it's good.
No.
It is
says
what
the one
is.
who's never tried LSD.
Oh shit.
I have no desire. Every time people describe like mushrooms or LSD, it is the antithesis of what I want in a drug.
Well, more for us.
You want to fall asleep for a long time.
Yeah.
I want to either fall asleep for a long time or like not have to sleep and like vacuum my whole house.
Cocaine.
Yeah. Literally cocaine.
Yeah, or like have a really
Fen.
fun time vacuuming my whole house.
Oh yeah.
Like that's
the good stuff.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this may or may not have had anything to do with the fact that registering as a religious organization not only allowed you to skirt taxes, but also allowed you to seek, quote, religious exemption from prohibition.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. So this is from allthat'sinteresting.com, one of my favorite sources.
Mm-hmm.
The Brotherhood's primary goal was to be able to distribute LSD to as many people as possible for as little money as they could manage.
Yeah.
California officially banned the substance in October of 1966, and a protest 3 months later in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park called the Human Be-In, I'm gonna just kill people, underscored the hippie resistance to the government's infringing on their psychedelic enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the use of LSD was shut down by the government at that time in California, but here it was being used as part of a religious practice. So these folks couldn't be hauled off to jail for using it, and it wasn't nationally criminalized yet.
Got it.
And honestly, we need to start a church. Like, we need to stop joking about it and actually do it, because like drugs and reproductive rights are tenets of my religion. So fuck off, and I'm not going to pay taxes.
Yeah, I'd love to get rich and do drugs and have reproductive freedom.
That'd be great. That'd be dope.
Literally, nothing is stopping us.
I know. We should just do it. But just because they were able to use LSD didn't mean they were able to just like blatantly make it. So they got shady and fucking made some epic shit. They created their own brand of LSD called Orange Sunshine, acquiring the necessary components through Afghanistan by way of Istanbul, Frankfurt, and London. This was a legitimate global smuggling operation.
Yeah.
That was essentially overlooked because the product was being used for religious purposes. They were giving this shit away mostly for free and funding it by also participating in the hashish trade. Hashish. Drugs would be shipped to... This is so fucking stupid, and I love it. Drugs would be shipped to California hidden inside of musical instruments, Volkswagen buses, hollowed out surfboards.
Yeah.
Well, it's like too on brand.
It's California hippie shit. I cannot make this shit up.
Bibles. Why are you sending it in surfboards? They're already suspicious of
Bibles
you.
would be more suspicious than
It would be more
surfboards
suspicious
going to Southern
because-
California.
Well, not even just going to Southern California, but going specifically to this quote-unquote religious organization because surfing was one of their religious practices in the Brotherhood, and they called it, quote, Christ in the curl.
I'm out.
I mean, I think this sounds rad. They're not taking it the Jesus part seriously.
It's not Jesus, but they are taking the God part pretty fucking seriously.
They just said
Like,
Christ in the curl. That is a
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah, I mean, yes and.
Yeah.
So they also, you'd love this, they also opened a spiritual center in Laguna Beach, a self-proclaimed psychedelic emporium called Mystic Arts World.
Ooh.
The shop served as a headquarters for their drug operations as well as their spiritual practices.
It is now known as the Magic Castle.
Probably. Starting in 1968, they began to distribute their signature Orange Sunshine for as little as 5 cents a tab. But they're basically giving it away.
Don't buy discount drugs.
Well,
These.
from these folks, you would want to because it's good stuff. One member put it succinctly, quote, "We weren't greedy. We just wanted people to get high." Those are your people to get drugs from.
Altruistic dealers, I guess. Yeah.
I
We
love
just
these
want you to have a
guys.
good time.
Like, where's the downside?
Corey
Honestly.
would have 1,000,000% been a part of this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would have been a part of it.
Yeah.
I don't surf, my God, but
No, me either. But the core strength, absolutely not. So
I'd
they went to
swim.
the... Yeah, I love swimming. They went
I'd
to the
tan.
East Coast. Okay. They went to the East Coast as well, opening the Center for the League of Spiritual Discovery in Greenwich Village in I said 86, but 1968. Yeah, I wrote that wrong. In this center, Leary and Co. gave free TED Talks proselytizing about LSD.
Ted Leary talks.
Ted Leary Talks. Around the same time, LSD had been banned in California, and the fight was on to ban it nationwide. Leary was obviously opposed to that and made many public and TV appearances fighting against this growing call for legislation. But alas, big government won out, and LSD was officially criminalized nationwide in 1968. Leary made his way back west and to a small couples-only commune that they built on a ranch in Idlewild.
Nothing could go wrong.
Nothing could go wrong. Run by Leary and another Brotherhood founder, John Griggs, who by now were fully claiming themselves to be agents of God, born to, quote, lead a new breed. Blech.
Through Christ in the curl.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because we
Read.
only have bad ad copy.
Yep. But God had other plans for Griggs because at only 25 years old, he fucking died from shock of the century and overdose of LSD.
You can die from an overdose of LSD. I mean, you can die from an overdose of anything.
You could die from an
but-
overdose
yeah.
of weed. Like, you could
Literally
die from...
anything can be toxic. It's just
water.
about the dose.
Yeah. In response to this tragedy, the Brotherhood didn't dial back their LSD production, but rather dialed it up, expanding their operation to produce, according to the BBC, 10 kilograms of LSD, or approximately 100 million doses.
That
It's
is
nuts.
so many
It's
doses.
so much.
That's how much
Yeah.
he took?
No,
Oh,
they were producing that.
Oh,
They
I
ramped
thought
up
that's
to
how
producing
he
that.
died.
There were like 100 million citizens in the US at the time.
Yeah.
They could have given a tab of LSD to like every single American.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of LSD.
It's a lot.
How many
It is a lot.
how many LSD can
I
you
don't-
do
I
in
don't
one
know.
day?
I don't know.
I'm reading
It would
right
depend on
now.
your tolerance, probably.
A dose ranging from 50 to 200 micrograms is non-toxic and medically safe when used in a safe setting. A typical tab is usually 100 to 200 micrograms.
According to Michael Randall, a formative member of the Brotherhood, the plan was to drive down the price of LSD through mass production to distribute, quote, so much orange sunshine that it would become virtually free. We had a deep spiritual commitment to what we were doing.
They were just trying to saturate the market so everyone could have it for free.
Yeah, pretty much.
Love it.
This was continuing to get out of fucking hand, and the Brotherhood was now being seen as, honestly, what it was, a massive drug syndicate, and was coined the hippie mafia by the press. They had grown not only in numbers, but in political influence, and our boy Timothy Leary even ran against Ronald Reagan for governor of California in 1969. Obvi he lost, but the race was
That's
huge.
a shame. He would have been so much better.
I know, would have been so good.
He could have become president.
He could have been. But the race was big in the press and in pop culture, even inspiring the Beatles' hit Come Together. Leary continued to be an outspoken and influential person, and the government was not feeling great about that. In 1965, so we're kind of going back in time a little bit, he had been picked up for marijuana possession when he was found with weed coming back into the U.S. from their little commune in Mexico with his family. Thinking this was the opportunity to shut this dude down, he was arrested for possession and sentenced to 30 years in prison.
For weed?
Under the Marijuana Tax Act, which I can't go into
We've
all the
talked
details
about
of that.
It's bullshit.
Yep. He appealed this charge, however, claiming it to be unconstitutional, and actually won this appeal. And it had something to do with a requirement of self-incrimination under the Marijuana Tax Act that he didn't actually do. So he found a good loophole and ended up having that completely overturned a few years later.
Okay.
But a few years after this initial arrest, after returning to the West Coast from New York, so he was in Greenwich, he's back to Laguna Beach. He was arrested in Laguna Beach, this time because he had 2 fat joints on him. And Leary claimed that these were planted on him, which, like, honestly, that's not outside the realm of possibility. He's an LSD guy. He's not really a weed guy, but they really wanted to shut him down. And they had all of these strict criminalization rules around weed that they could fuck him up with. I can't confirm or deny whether or not it was planted on him, but it's not like, it's super plausible.
Yeah.
And despite his previous marijuana conviction being overturned, they got him on this one. So he was charged and awaited trial as he simultaneously tried to run for California governor. Bold move.
Trump.
Yeah, well,
seriously.
we got somebody facing 35 felony counts running for president. So
yeah, exactly. After 2 years, so he's charged for the 2 joints in 1968. 2 years later, in 1970, he finally goes to court in January of 1970, and he's sentenced to 10 years for marijuana possession and another 10 years added for some separate charge from a few years earlier. So basically, 2 joints got him 20 years.
Jesus Christ.
But Leary was... I'd be...
0 for the 100 million doses of LSD.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Legislation hadn't caught up.
Well, and those are for religious practices,
yes.
so... But Leary was not going to go down easy and still had a lot of connections as the founder of the hippie mafia. One such connection was to the Weathermen, which was a leftist militant group founded at the University of Michigan by, quote, Students for a Democratic Society.
They were scary.
Yeah.
It's raining, man.
Weatherman.
The Weathermen were freaky.
According to Wikipedia, they believed the U.S. government to be imperialist and had the long-term objective of overthrowing the government. So they were a leftist terrorist organization. A few months after Leary was sent to prison, a member of the Weathermen acted as Leary's getaway driver in his escape from prison.
So many more people escape from prison than I ever realized.
Like everyone.
That's
I
like
guess.
my biggest takeaway from doing this podcast is that
Seriously.
like if you're sent to prison, like try to escape.
Just
like
leave.
It's like 50-50.
Not that
It
hard.
seems not that hard, yeah. Leary apparently snuck his way up and over a prison wall by like climbing a telephone wire.
A Spider-Man.
Yeah. His escape was a success, and he was eventually smuggled all the way to Algeria with his wife and kids. They hid out in Algeria for about a year before making their way to Switzerland, where arms dealer Michael Houchard offered to shelter them, but it turned out he was like just kind of imprisoning them, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay. Then they were kidnapped and
Yeah.
Switzerland.
Yada, yada, yada.
It got a little messy.
They ended up in an ashram in Pondicherry.
Pretty much. In 1972, the Nixon administration successfully convinced the Swiss government to imprison him, but they refused to extradite him back to the U.S. So they imprisoned him for like a hot minute, and then they were like, okay, we're done.
We're over it.
During this time, his wife left him and took the kids back to the U.S., and now single and ready to mingle, Leary blasted on...
like...
you're in prison now?
Prison to
Algeria.
Escape to Algeria, to Switzerland prison, and then finally she was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
This was the last straw. So single and ready to mingle Leary blasted on LSD and cocaine, married a Swiss socialite, and the two gallivanted around Europe before making their way to beautiful Afghanistan in 1972.
No.
Actually, a good time. It's a good
It was
year
a
to be
pretty good
there.
They
time
were
to
kind
be
of
there, yeah.
thriving.
Right. Well, though Afghanistan did not have an extradition treaty with the U.S., that protection apparently didn't apply to just like international air travel. And the U.S. government was able to arrest Leary as soon as his plane landed in Kabul. So they'd been following him around for a while. Nobody would send him back to the U.S., but Afghanistan was like, listen, you can only get him while he's at the airport.
Yeah,
Then,
as soon as his feet touch the ground, then we're not.
then it's not our thing anymore.
Wow.
He's traveling internationally. You can get him off the plane, but once he's done, not our problem. So they did get him. They take him back to California, where his bail was set at $5 million, and he was facing a nearly 100-year prison sentence. But being a white boy who went to Harvard is pretty great, because in the end, he was only given an additional 5 years.
Is this still
his
for the
escape.
2 joints? Or is this
Yes.
What?
Yes. And was sent to Folsom
The
Prison.
resources that went
I know.
into nailing this guy for 2 joints in the 70s.
Well, in 1968
Yeah.
is when he first got picked up for that. So he was sent to Folsom Prison in California, where he was put in solitary in the cell right next to Charles Manson.
I knew that.
Yeah.
God, I knew
Quote,
his name was familiar, yeah.
They couldn't see each other, but they could chat through the bars.
Kill me. I'd
Quote, in
rather
their-
be dead.
I know, same. In their discussions, Manson was surprised and found it difficult to understand why Leary had given people LSD without trying to control them.
Or make any kind of profit.
Of money.
This
No.
wasn't about money at all.
Yeah,
which
really
is
wasn't.
the
It
was
most
just
mind-blowing
like,
part.
okay, so you give
What
him
was
the
your
LSD,
end game?
and then exactly.
He didn't understand that the end game was literally spiritual enlightenment, and like that's it.
He's like, no.
At one point,
You
At
got
one
this
point,
all wrong.
Manson said to Leary, "They took you off the streets so that I could continue your work."
Oh.
Yeah. So
Manson
creepy.
is the worst.
He's so scary. So Leary fully switched sides and started working with the U.S. government as an informant, which shortened his sentence and allowed him to enter witness protection upon his release from prison in 1976.
Imagine
He served
trying
4
to
years.
live a normal suburban witness protection life as this guy, and then somebody
Back of
mentions
your
like
brain busted open from drugs.
Yeah,
somebody
exactly.
mentions like, oh, it's spring, I gotta plant my poppies, and he's like, let me tell you about Kabul in 72. Oh wait,
Oh, wait.
Can I borrow a cup of sugar, Tim?
So, yeah, he served like 4 years for 2 joints and escaping prison and gallivanting all over the world and blah, blah, blah.
And then they granted him witness protection.
Yep. So, although he was like, hey, guys, hey, Brotherhood of Eternal Love, I was just bullshitting with the man to get out early. Like, I'm still one of you. Like, I'm cool. But his hippie colleagues were like, no, you're a cop informant and a liar. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
So his legacy had officially ended. He died in like 1996. I think he just kind of went off and,
Well, there's a reason we
vibed.
don't know what happened to him.
right.
I didn't
he was
realize
on witness protection.
I didn't know he went down like that.
he became an electrician and
Probably burned another church to the
got
ground.
really into foosball.
Oh my God.
As
As for the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, they had spent basically the entire decade of the 60s playing a major role in the 1960s counterculture movement and functioned as one of the largest drug smuggling operations of the era. But with founding fathers Timothy Leary being a fucking narc and John Griggs fucking blasted himself to death on LSD, those are like their two founding fathers, and things fell apart without them. So, quote, John
the
Gale
deadheads were dead and without a head.
pretty much.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, funny that you should say without a head.
What?
God.
What?
Quote, John Gale joined the Brotherhood of Eternal Love relatively early in its existence, but unlike the other initial members, he was not a true believer in their psychedelic spirituality. He was a surfer and a petty criminal who seemed more attracted to the group for the danger and excitement of their escapades. With the other bosses out, Gale took the reins, leaning all the way into the hippie mafia and away from spiritual enlightenment. So he was actually just trying to like sell fucking drugs.
He took the reins and made it into money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Finally, on August 5th, 1972, state and federal officials conducted a series of raids on Brotherhood properties in multiple states. So like raiding all their communes across the country.
Oh my God.
Some core members managed to escape and avoid capture for several years, but eventually nearly dozens of members of the Brotherhood of Eternal Love were arrested and convicted of various drug-related offenses. Gale was one of the ones to wiggle away somehow, but he didn't walk away from drug dealing entirely and was still a major player in Los Angeles until he was busted in 1981 with over $7 million worth of cocaine ready to distribute.
Damn.
Shockingly, however, he never made it to court for this charge as he was fucking decapitated in a car accident before his court date.
Oh,
So not like offed, like it was an accident?
No, it was an accident. He died in a car accident.
destination.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. His capo was detated.
Oh no.
Yeah.
His capo was detated. Jesus.
His capo was detated.
Christ.
Look at me having prophetic dreams.
Seriously. So,
Good.
and of course, by the 80s, LSD was kind of out and like Coke was super in.
Yeah.
So that
He was
finalized.
a trendsetter.
That really finalized the death of the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. And now it's just like a topic of folklore. It doesn't exist anymore.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
That was heavy, man.
Cool.
Fucking Christ of the Curl. You know what I'm saying?
Curl.
Fucking
Wow.
Christ and the Curl. Anyway, that's my
Well done.
Isn't that a wild ride?
I like
knew
how
a
there
lot
were
of that,
parts
but
that
there
you
were
just
some
like
twists.
had to skip over, and then he married
there's
a
so
Swiss
much.
socialite.
Right, and that was the whole thing. You guys,
That was the whole thing.
this could be a 50 season podcast.
Yeah.
Like there's so much shit to this Brotherhood of Eternal Love and like all the people that were part of it and all the offshoots of it. It was nuts. It was huge. It dominated the entire like zeitgeist of the 60s. It was crazy.
It was he redirected the culture of our country.
1,000%. Yeah, absolutely.
Ugh.
Like almost single-handedly.
That's
it was so fucking wild.
amazing.
As fan picker Jordan Wilson.
Has
You
indeed.
have redirected the zeitgeist of this episode.
Well, I sure hope you liked that clip. If you did like that clip, make sure you are subscribing to our YouTube channel, leaving us a nice review, and joining us on Patreon for even more video content, audio content, salacious content all around. Come join us. Treat yourself.